Have you ever wondered, why does the world's #1 superpower, the United States, operate with habits that the entire planet considers unreasonable?
Been to America and you come to America, this is probably an observation that you will make. The American flag is absolutely everywhere.
Bro, even the fruit bag, man. Just look at this. My God, everything's really supersized.
Don't be mistaken. This is not naivety. Behind every shock of the Europeans is a whole machine. Economy, law, and history are calculated down to the last cent. Europeans live in a protectionist model. Compact cities, walking, integrated taxes. But the US is an absolute free market model. Here, the vast land turns cars into survival weapons, and all services pass the costs on to consumers. Don't just look and laugh. Stay and watch for the next 20 minutes. I will uncover 5 underlying economic truths behind these mind-bending phenomena. I assure you, after this video, the way you view America will change completely. Let's get to work!
After living in England for 2 years, coming back to America, I've never had more perspective on how wild the tipping culture here in America is. It's crazy. I went to 2 places today.
As an American who moved to Germany, it took me so long to stop over-tipping. Back home, I was taught to leave 20% no matter what. But here, that's way too much. Now, Europeans visiting the US for the World Cup are having the opposite problem. Restaurants in host cities are complaining that foreign tourists aren't tipping enough.
There, do you see? Many European tourists have shared that they were surprised to receive a request for a tip. Many people even said, just stepping into an American restaurant feels like taking an advanced algebra exam. Most people think that the wage of $2.30 an hour in the US sounds like a figure from the Stone Age, right? But this is completely true right in the heart of modern America. Why is there this absurd number? Legally, the United States has a mechanism called the tipped minimum wage. That is, a minimum wage specifically applicable to employees who receive tips. Federal law allows restaurant owners to pay their employees extremely low base wages, as it is assumed that tips from customers will make up the difference to reach the standard minimum wage. So once they understood, some Europeans didn't hesitate to tip. They even called on other guests to tip the American servers.
Shout out to all the Europeans that are here in the US for FIFA on holiday. Guys, when you eat your meal, you need to tip your waiter, your waitress, your server. That is proper etiquette in the United States. I know in England it's different, but in England, your server, your waiter, waitress are paid significantly more per hour. In the United States, there is a tip. The tip is a large part of their pay. They need their tips to make what they need to make. So in the United States, unlike Europe, you tip typically 20%, 15 to 20% of the total bill. I know that you're not doing this.
What is the essence here? American restaurants have cleverly shifted part of the labor cost directly onto the consumers' wallets. When you look at the menu, the dishes seem cheap, but that's only half the truth. You are required to add an extra 15% to 20% tip if you don't want to receive glares from the staff. And here is the data that will leave you stunned. We often think of tips as a reward for dedication, right? But a famous study from Cornell University showed that customers who received excellent service in the US only tipped higher than those who received poor service by a mere 1%. That's right, just 1%. What does that prove? Tips in the US have long ceased to be a voluntary reward. They have become a social obligation. European customers are right to be shocked, because in their home countries, tipping is only a discretionary act when the service is exceptional. In the US, it is the daily bread and clothing of the workers.
Okay, Europeans, we need to talk about paying in the US. Just so when you go visit, you'll be ready. Because the number you see on the menu, for example, that is not the number you're going to pay.
Welcome to the second shock. The price marked on the shelf is never the final amount you have to pay.
That $12 burger you're eyeing, by the time the bill lands on your table, it has gone through a full financial glow-up. Suddenly, it's not just $12. It's $12 plus state tax, plus city tax, plus maybe a hospitality charge, plus the famous tip. Usually 15 to 25%, depending on how guilty you feel at.
If in Europe or Vietnam, we are already used to the listed price being the final price, meaning the value-added tax, VAT, is already included. In the US, they play peekaboo with sales tax. The price on the shelf is the original price, and the tax will be automatically added when you swipe your card at the checkout. Why do Americans do this complicated thing that drives tourists crazy? The answer lies in economic decentralization. America does not have a nationwide sales tax. The federal government delegates this power to each state, each county, and even each city. Two stores located just one street apart, but in different districts can have completely different tax rates.
In the US, prices are listed without sales tax because taxes vary depending on the state or even the county.
Let's take a super funny, real-life example in the state of California. You walk into a bakery, buy a cup of coffee to go, and you won't be charged sales tax. But if you change your mind, pull up a chair, sit down, and eat a pastry, suddenly you get taxed! In addition, keeping the prices before tax makes it extremely easy for giant retail corporations to do marketing. They can run a nationwide advertising campaign. Burgers only $0.99, without having to spend the effort to reprint millions of price tags for each district. Very convenient for businesses, but the ones who suffer in confusion are the tourists. Speaking of which, if you find these analyses interesting and they help you understand many things about America, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Your clicks are the biggest motivation for me to continue creating high-quality videos like this. Thank you all very much. But never mind, to comfort tourists after the shocks of tips and hidden taxes, America invented an economic wonder so great that everyone has to tip their hat. Costco's $1.50 hot dog combo.
All right, yo, everybody in my comments saying that America is still more expensive than the UK. Here's a prime example. I'm here at Costco, and you guys got the hot dog and drink for £1.50. That's great, right? In America, that's $1.50 USD. So your £1.50 equates to over $2 USD. So it's 33% more expensive to buy a hot dog and drink here than it is in the United States.
Can you believe it? A large beef hot dog along with a free overflowing soda costs exactly $50. And the craziest thing is, this $1.50 price has been kept unchanged since 1985 until today. Despite inflation, despite economic crises, despite skyrocketing beef prices, why are they able to perform this miracle? Does Costco operate out of a passion for charity? Of course not. In retail terminology, this is called the loss leader strategy, a product sold at a loss to attract customers. Costco knows very well that the hot dog is costing them money every day, but it serves as a premium bait. To get into Costco to buy that $1.50 hot dog, you have to spend money on an annual membership. And once you step into their gigantic warehouse, no one ever just walks out with a hot dog. You will conveniently grab an enormous pack of toilet paper, a gigantic jar of peanut butter, and countless other things. The $1.50 hot dog is a bit of a loss, but it brings in tens of billions of dollars in revenue for Costco from other items. That is the magic of American retail art. Spending, money, and shopping have already made your head spin, right? But wait a minute, because when you step out of the store and onto the streets of America, a whole new series of infrastructure shocks awaits you, where cars as big as dinosaurs roam and sidewalks for pedestrians can suddenly vanish without a trace. When distance is measured in hours in Mario Kart Survival Race,
After living in America for 2 years, there are still 3 things that genuinely shock me. And the first one isn't what you'd expect. Number 1, the driving. Everybody told me in America it would be much easier, and they were right. The roads are wider, the signs just make sense, and it's actually a really easy place to drive until you meet the other drivers. Mate, every morning on my way to work, it feels like I'm playing Mario Kart.
welcome to the survival arena on the American highway. Hearing the British complain is just so pitiful, but you have to be in their situation to understand. In Europe, you drive for an hour and you're in another country, speaking a different language. And in America, you drive for 12 exhausting hours, and when you look back in shock, oh no, still in the heart of Texas or California. That's why Americans never say, my house is 50 miles away, but they will say, my house is a 4 or 5 minute drive away. The distance for them is measured by time, not by miles or kilometers. But why is the transportation infrastructure in the US so ridiculously massive? Let's take a step back in history. The interstate highway system in the US was built in a boom during the Cold War. The initial goal was not only to serve the civilian population, but also to move the military, heavy trucks, and military equipment extremely quickly across the states. This planning, which prioritized speed and super heavy vehicles, has shaped the consumer mentality of Americans. Everything must be big. Cars must be massive monster trucks, and houses must be half an acre with spacious gardens. Compact European cars on American highways look no different from a matchbox running among a fleet of tanks. Yes! Perhaps this is the pinnacle of absurdity, everyone! You are strolling happily on a very picturesque sidewalk, and suddenly the sidewalk disappears without a trace, making way for a lawn or a lane for vehicles. European tourists are bound to be shocked, because in England or France, walking is a culture. But in America, walking on the street is sometimes considered a strange behavior. The nature of this phenomenon stems from the wave of suburbanization after World War II. American cities are designed 100% for cars, not for pedestrians. Want to buy a loaf of bread? Drive. Want to buy a cup of coffee? Slide into the drive-thru lane. They assume that if you're on the road, you must have a car. So the sidewalk is just a minor detail. If you like it, you use it. If not, you cut it. And if you are lucky enough to own a private house in that beautiful suburb, welcome to the final boss, the HOA, Homeowners Association, the Residential Homeowners Association. Hearing the name, you might think it's a friendly neighborhood cultural activity group, right? You're completely mistaken. This is a private organization with immense financial power. They can fine you hundreds of dollars just because you forgot to mow the lawn, making it 2 centimeters longer than the regulation, or because you painted your door a color different from the neighborhood's tone. Why do Americans accept this absurdity? It's simple. Keeping the entire neighborhood looking perfectly synchronized is the best way to maintain the property value of their homes from declining. Individualism, but tied to financial interests. You see, the American plan sounds unreasonable, but there are very practical economic reasons behind it, right? If you like this straightforward, easy to understand, and humorous analysis, please take 2 seconds to like the video and hit the subscribe button to help me out. That's the quickest way for the algorithm to bring this interesting content to more people. Thank you all very much. This is the very motif that makes any European driver when first driving in the US. Gasp in surprise! First is the case of the red turn signal. In Europe or the rest of the world, ECE standards require turn signals to be amber in color to clearly distinguish them from brake lights. But in the US, the Department of Transportation, DOT standards, allow car manufacturers to use the same flashing red brake light as the turn signal. What is the underlying reason? Saving production costs for car manufacturers. A small detail like that, multiplied by millions of cars produced each year, can save tens of millions of USD. Next is the trick right turn on red. When you encounter a red light, after observing that no cars are approaching, you are allowed to turn right without waiting for the green light. This law was introduced during the oil crisis of the 1970s to prevent cars from idling and wasting fuel. And finally, the legendary yellow light. In England or Germany, the yellow light only flashes for a second before turning red, and if you try to run it, you'll get a ticket immediately. But in the US, the yellow light lasts leisurely from 3 to 5 seconds, so long that people humorously say it lasts for 10 years. Enough time for you to be 200 meters away from the intersection and still hit the gas and zoom through safely. Traveling, driving, and home management. Has that been enough to make your head spin? But the story doesn't stop there. Now step inside the supermarket and the American pharmacy, where you will witness food packages as large as dog food bags and strange drug advertisements that you will never find anywhere else on this planet. Surely, those of you from Europe, when you first step into an American supermarket, all have the same feeling. It seems like you've just been shrunk down. Everything here is ridiculously big. The milk bottles are as big as buckets. The cheese candy jars are as large as barrels, and the cereals or cookies are packaged in bags that look no different from pet food bags. But why is America so obsessed with supersize? This is not just a dietary habit, but the result of a superpower-level industrialized agriculture. America produces a huge amount of corn and agricultural products. And from corn, they extract high fructose corn syrup, a super cheap sweetener. The abundance of this cheap raw material forces food processing corporations to come up with all sorts of ways to stimulate consumer demand. If they only sold traditional Oreo cookies, it would be so boring. They have to create dozens of variations. Mint Oreo, birthday cake Oreo, chocolate-covered Oreo. The goal is to turn the booth into a paradise of choices, making you dizzy and adding more to your cart than you actually need. And here is the data that will make you exclaim, "Really?" Do you know how much peanut butter an average American consumes? Exactly 1 kilogram of peanut butter per year. This number is 10 times the average of 100g for a European. In the eyes of Europeans, peanut butter is a strange and hard-to-eat food. But for Americans, it is a quintessential dish. From peanut butter and Jell-O sandwiches, PB&J, to various pastries. There's another specialty that also leaves international tourists bewildered. You are sitting watching a fun entertainment program on TV when suddenly a dreamy advertisement appears with images of people holding hands walking on lush green meadows, accompanied by the line, "Ask your doctor about this drug X." Then immediately, a super fast voice at the end of the clip starts warning about a list of side effects that would make your hair stand on end. In Europe or most of the world, this is completely illegal. But in the US, it is a business worth hundreds of billions of USD. And notably, worldwide, there are only 2 countries that allow direct-to-consumer advertising of prescription drugs in the media. Direct-to-consumer advertising, which are the United States and New Zealand. Why does the US allow this? The American pharmaceutical industry defends this right based on an extremely strong legal shield. The First Amendment, freedom of speech. They argue that providing information about drugs is a form of free trade and free speech. What is the result? Instead of the doctor being the one to actively diagnose and prescribe, TV commercials have brainwashed the patients. Many Americans watch TV, self-diagnose their symptoms, and then go to the clinic saying to the doctor, "Doctor, please prescribe me the exact medication I saw on TV last night." An incredibly perfect consumer loop. These facts may sound shocking at first, but once you understand the mechanism behind them, they seem extremely logical, don't you think? If you find this perspective fresh and useful, please hit the like button and leave a comment sharing your thoughts. Your interaction helps the channel have more budget to produce even more quality videos. Thank you all very much. Can you believe it? The pharmacy not only sells medicine, but also beer, frozen pizza, ice cream, and cigarettes. Right? Haha! This strange thing can only happen in America. You walk into a pharmacy, but feel like you've just stepped into a mixed supermarket. On the left side is the counter for cold and cough medicine, but on the right side is a freezer filled with pizza, ice cream, energy drinks, and even shelves selling hard liquor and cigarettes. Europeans find this very contradictory and irresponsible. Why does a place that sells medicine also sell things that affect health, like alcohol and tobacco? But from the perspective of the American retail economy, this is called the convenience-driven retail model. Large pharmacies like CVS or Walgreens have to pay very high rent for their locations at expensive intersections. If they only rely on selling a few packs of cold medicine, they will incur losses. Therefore, they make the most of every square foot of space to sell anything that consumers might need to grab quickly. Americans love the convenience of a one-stop shop. Stopping by to buy a box of pain relievers, casually grabbing an ice cream cone and a can of beer to drink. The supersized, free market, and convenience culture have created a truly unique America. But the differences don't stop there. In this final part, we will encounter the most mind-bending cultural and legal paradoxes, where at 18 you are allowed to hold a gun, but you have to wait until you are 21 to touch a sip of beer. A European tourist shared, "I really don't understand. In the US, at 18, you have the right to vote, buy a gun, or be held legally responsible as an adult, but you have to wait until you're exactly 21 to take a sip of beer? While in Germany or Belgium, at 16, people can buy and drink beer freely. This is indeed a laughable paradox that every European tourist exclaims when they come to America. At 18, you can drive at high speeds on the highway or hold a gun, but if you want to order a bottle of beer, the staff will flatly refuse. Why is there this strange number 21? The deep-rooted origin begins with the National Minimum Drinking Age Act of 1984, but the decisive blow here is the financial trick of the federal government. American law grants each state the authority to decide the drinking age. But the federal government issued a dire threat. Any state that does not raise the drinking age to 21 will lose 10% of its federal highway funding. Touching the money for road construction is touching the Achilles heel. And the result, as you can guess, is that 100% of the states, whether they like it or not, had to reluctantly accept the number 21 to avoid losing funding. But that's not all. What about writing month before day? MMDDYYY. Most of the world writes from the smallest unit to the largest. Day, month, year. Which is very logical. But Americans put the month first just because of their communication habit. They are used to saying January 1st instead of the 1st of January, so they write it as they say it for convenience. In addition, there is a determination to use the imperial system, inches, feet, pounds, instead of the metric system. The cost of changing the entire infrastructure of signs and machinery of a superpower to the metric system is too expensive. Although this mistake once caused a catastrophic disaster for NASA, resulting in the complete loss of the Mars Climate Orbiter probe worth hundreds of millions of USD, simply because one side used the metric system while the other used the imperial system. Having watched this far, if you find these interesting historical and economic stories deserving of a bonus point, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Each interaction from you is a great motivation for me to continue producing more quality content like this. Thank you all so much! But putting aside all those absurdities or differences, what truly touches the hearts of European tourists is the astonishing friendliness of the American people. In social psychology, cultures are divided into two types: coconut culture and peach culture. Europeans or the British are like a coconut. The outer shell is tough, closed off, and maintains distance from strangers. But once you break through that outer shell, you will find a very deep connection. And Americans? They are peaches! The outer layer is soft and open. They are ready to give you a random compliment on the street, ask about your life in the elevator, or help you immediately without hesitation. It's not fake politeness, but the instinct of a nation of immigrants where people learn to be open to survive and connect. After all, America may seem quirky to the rest of the world, but it is precisely those contradictory pieces that create a culture incredibly unique and full of energy. America is not perfect, and it is not quirky by chance either. All the things that leave European tourists bewildered, from the tipping culture, the missing sidewalks, the hidden tax maze to the giant jars of peanut butter, are actually products of a very unique machine of free economy, immigration history, and decentralized legal system. At first glance, it may seem unreasonable, but once you understand, you'll see that everything operates according to its own unique rules. And what about you? If you have the opportunity to set foot in America, which cultural shock makes you feel the most curious or confused? Please leave your comments below so we can discuss together. If you find this video interesting and it provides you with fresh perspectives, don't forget to hit like, share the video, and subscribe to the channel with the notification bell so you won't miss the next engaging economic and social analysis content. The video shares cultural perspectives and socio-economic analyses for reference and entertainment purposes and does not represent any individual or organization in its entirety. Thank you for taking the time to watch. Goodbye and see you in the next videos. Bye-bye.